There are legends in Hollywood who seem untouchable, people who shine so brightly that you assume nothing in their world could ever dim the light. And for decades, Goldie Hawn was one of them. The woman with the golden laugh, the effortless charm, and the kind of glow that made you believe she lived in a world far from pain or disappointment. But now, at 78, Goldie has begun revealing pieces of her life that few ever expected to hear. Not glossy memories or polished stories, but raw confessions that paint a far different picture than the one the world held onto for so long. What she shared wasn't another cheerful anecdote or a nostalgic walk through her career. It was something heavier, something that left even longtime fans stunned. Because behind all the sparkle, she's been carrying a truth she kept quiet for years, a truth that exposes the loneliness, fear, and emotional weight that fame never protected her from. And the moment she finally opened up about it, everything people thought they knew about her changed. What she revealed is heartbreaking, not because she's weak, but because she spent a lifetime trying not to show just how much she was hurting. And that sense of slowly fading is what leads us straight into the first truth Goldie hinted at, something she never fully admitted until recently. For decades, the world believed she lived inside an endless glow, as if nothing could ever dim her joy. Her laugh became iconic, her charm unforgettable, her presence almost magical. But Goldie knew better than anyone that the Golden Girl image was only the surface. Behind the scenes, she was constantly wrestling with emotions that didn't match the bright persona everyone expected from her. It started early in her career, when she was pushed into roles that highlighted her innocence and cheerful energy. Those roles made her a star, but they also trapped her. She later spoke about feeling boxed in, unable to show her depth because Hollywood didn't want depth from her. They wanted a symbol, not a human being. And even though she delivered exactly what they wanted, she felt pieces of herself slipping away in the process. It was as if she had been crafted into a character she never asked to play. And over time, that disconnect took a quiet toll. As she reflected on those years, Goldie admitted she often felt misunderstood. She wasn't just the girl giggling through scenes. She was someone battling pressure, exhaustion, and the fear of never being taken seriously. That fear followed her into her later years, growing heavier each time she realized people still saw the old version of her, not the woman she had become. And stepping into their 70s only made that gap more obvious. But the pressure of that image was only the beginning of her deeper struggle, because what came next revealed how unforgiving Hollywood can be when its stars begin to age. And it was that growing gap, the one between who she was and who people assume she was, that pushed Goldie into one of her most painful realizations. Hollywood, the place that once lifted her to the top, was slowly turning its back on her. She spoke openly about how age changed everything. Roles vanished, offers evaporated, invitations became fewer. It wasn't a dramatic cutoff, it was something far crueler, a slow fade-out that she could feel happening in real time. She once said that aging in Hollywood is like becoming invisible while you're still standing in the same room. And those words hit harder than many expected, because coming from someone as beloved as Goldie, they showed just how deeply she felt the shift. She wasn't asking for sympathy. She was admitting the truth most older actresses whisper about, but rarely share publicly. Studios didn't want her wisdom or experience. They wanted youth, marketability, and the sparkle of someone new. And that rejection didn't stop at lost roles. Rumors began circling online, claiming she had disagreements with studios over scripts she felt were demeaning. roles that treated older women as jokes or background characters. While these claims weren't verified, they echoed the frustrations she and many of her peers often hinted at. Goldie didn't want just any role. She wanted to play characters with meaning, but Hollywood wasn't offering those anymore. The longer she stayed out of the spotlight, the more fans started to wonder what happened to her. And for Goldie, that unspoken distance between her and the industry she dedicated her life to became one of the hardest emotional battles she faced. But even that wasn't the deepest part of her struggle, because privately, she was fighting something far more overwhelming. And the quiet distance from Hollywood only magnified the emotional battles Goldie spent years trying to control. Even long before she reached this age, she was no stranger to heavy feelings. She once confessed that she fell into a deep emotional spiral when she was young, long before the world crowned her a star. She felt crushed by expectations, terrified of failure, and exhausted from constantly pretending she was okay. Those early years created emotional wounds that never fully disappeared. As she grew older, those feelings resurfaced, not dramatically, but slowly. In interviews, she discussed moments of overwhelming sadness and isolation, describing times when she felt empty despite being surrounded by success. Fans admired her strength, but she quietly admitted that strength often came from forcing herself to smile when she didn't feel like smiling at all. Online discussions in recent years have pointed out something else: speculation that her long periods of silence signaled emotional strain. Some fans believe she retreated because she felt worn down by the industry. Others speculated that she was dealing with her own sense of fading relevance. None of these theories were confirmed, but they reflect how many sensed a shift in her, especially as she became more reclusive. Goldie herself hinted that as she entered her later years, she felt old emotional wounds reopening. It wasn't just about Hollywood or aging. It was about losing her place in a world where she once belonged so easily. And the more she pulled back, the more those feelings grew. But another revelation was coming, one that showed her struggles weren't confined to the industry. They were now creeping into the most personal space of all, her home. And the strain she felt emotionally only deepened when her sense of safety, a foundation she always valued, began to crumble. Goldie is known for being intensely protective of her family, her children, her grandchildren, her longtime partner Kurt Russell. These were her anchors. But recently, those anchors have been shaken in ways she didn't expect. In one interview, she described a moment that left her deeply rattled, coming home to discover someone had broken into her house. Her voice trembled as she explained how violated she felt, how the walls that once gave her peace now felt unfamiliar and unsafe. And this wasn't an isolated incident. She and Kurt reported multiple break-ins, each one chipping away at her sense of security. For someone who always found refuge in her home life, this fear was devastating. She spoke about lying awake at night, listening for sounds, worrying about her grandchildren visiting, feeling the unsettling reminder that no amount of fame can protect you from danger. That fear didn't just shake her, it changed her. She became more withdrawn, more cautious, more aware of how fragile peace can be. Rumors online added another layer of concern. Some fans speculated that these incidents intensified existing tensions within her family, though none of these claims were confirmed. But what is clear is that Goldie felt more vulnerable than ever. She hinted that these moments made her realize how quickly life can shift and how easily a sense of safety can disappear. And that growing sense of vulnerability is what led to her most emotional revelation yet, one that would expose the heartache she carried long before anyone realized it. And as that sense of vulnerability settled into her life, something else began to rise to the surface. An emotional distance she rarely talked about, but one that people close to her could feel. Goldie had always been the heartbeat of her family, the one who brought everyone together, who kept peace even when things grew complicated. But over time, even she couldn't ignore the quiet shifts that started happening within her closest circles. It wasn't dramatic or explosive. It was subtle. Missed calls, shorter visits, long stretches of silence that once seemed unimaginable. And while her deep bond with her children remained strong, the world around her began speculating about the cracks forming in other relationships. Online discussions pointed to possible disagreements within her extended family, unverified chatter suggesting that certain relatives felt overshadowed or overlooked. None of these claims were ever confirmed, but they fed into a feeling Goldie was already battling herself, the fear of slowly becoming less essential in the lives she helped build. She hinted at this during a rare quiet interview, mentioning that as families grow, people drift without meaning to. Her voice softened when she said it, revealing more pain than she likely intended. That emotional distance struck her harder than the shifting tides of Hollywood, because unlike the industry, family was the one place she always believed she could rely on. But the truth was, age changes dynamics. She watched her children become parents, watched priorities evolve, watched the natural but painful reshuffling that happens as generations move forward. And even though she was endlessly proud of her family, she couldn't escape the haunting feeling of slowly stepping aside. She had been the center for so long. Now she felt herself moving toward the edges, and that fear of fading in her family, just as she faded in Hollywood, only made what she revealed next even more heartbreaking. Because the real pain wasn't about career or safety, it was about something far deeper that she kept hidden for years. And it was that slow emotional drift at home that made Hollywood's rejection cut even deeper. Goldie built her life on stories, performances, roles that shaped generations. But as the years passed, she sensed the industry gradually looking past her, as though her contributions belonged to some distant era instead of the present. She admitted that feeling invisible in a world she once helped define was one of the hardest truths she ever faced. She spoke candidly about this in a reflective interview, hinting that Hollywood doesn't know what to do with women who age gracefully, but loudly. Women who still want to work, who still have something to say. And Goldie had plenty to say. But the calls weren't coming. Opportunities she once received without hesitation now went to younger faces, newer names, people the industry could mold into the next trend. She said she sometimes wondered if her legacy truly mattered. Did people remember the breadth of her work? Or did they only remember the smile? The laugh? The bubbly characters she played decades ago? That question lingered in her tone, carrying a vulnerability she rarely let the world hear. Rumors online added fuel to this heartbreak. Some claimed she turned down roles because they were disrespectful toward older women. Others suggested she wasn't offered anything meaningful at all. Whether any of this was true didn't matter. The outcome was the same. She felt overlooked by the very system she helped elevate. And those worries only grew louder when Goldie started appearing less and less in public. For someone who used to be everywhere, red carpets, award shows, interviews, her absence didn't go unnoticed. Fans online began speculating about her health, with some claiming they had insider info that she was dealing with medical issues. None of these claims were ever confirmed, but the internet doesn't need confirmation to spark fear, and soon the conversation swelled into an avalanche of concern. But the truth, at least the truth Goldie allowed people to see, hinted at something less physical and far more emotional. She admitted privately that she needed space, needed quiet, needed time to understand the shifting roles in her life. That kind of retreat, while healthy, often looks like disappearance to the outside world. And rumors filled the silence she left behind. Supporters expressed heartbreak over the idea that she might be lonely, pointing out that even with a loving family and longtime partner, isolation can creep into anyone's life, especially someone who spent so many decades being surrounded, celebrated, and needed. Goldie herself once said, "The hardest part of aging isn't the body. It's the space people expect you to fade into." Those words revealed something powerful. She wasn't hiding because of illness or weakness. She was hiding because she didn't know where she fit anymore. When she looked in the mirror, she saw a woman filled with wisdom, memories, and stories. But when she looked at the world around her, she wasn't sure if anyone still wanted to hear them. And that quiet fear set the stage for her most emotional confession yet, one that finally exposed the heart of what she had been carrying. And when she finally allowed herself to open up, truly open up, the truth she revealed was more heartbreaking than any rumor, any speculation, any whisper online. Goldie confessed that the hardest part of reaching 78 wasn't the aging, the fading career, or the shifting relationships. It was the realization that no amount of success could shield her from loneliness, fear, or the ache of feeling forgotten. She admitted that she sometimes sits in her home, surrounded by awards, photos, memories of a life filled with achievements, yet feels an emptiness she never expected. She said she wonders whether she made the impact she hoped for, whether her work will live on, whether her presence still matters in a world constantly moving on to the next thing. It wasn't a cry for sympathy. It was a reminder that even the brightest icons feel the shadows. And as she reached this final stretch of her journey, she wanted people to understand one thing. Fame doesn't protect anyone from heartbreak, not even her. And when you step back and look at everything she shared, the fear, the fading relevance, the emotional distance, the quiet battles she endured, you realize Goldie Hawn isn't just a Hollywood legend. She's a woman who carried the weight of expectations for a lifetime, only to reach this stage of her life and confront truths she never wanted to face. Her story isn't tragic because she's broken. It's heartbreaking because she spent decades holding everything together so perfectly that no one realized how much she was hurting beneath the glow. And now, as she opens up piece by piece, she's revealing the emotional reality she hid behind that signature smile. Goldie's story is a reminder that even the strongest hearts struggle, even the brightest stars dim, and even the happiest faces hide pain. And maybe that's why her revelation shook so many people, because it showed that behind every icon is a human being still searching for meaning, connection, and a place where they belong, even after the applause fades.